what's going on, guys? So today we're working on a 2010 Kia Forte non-coupe. There's a couple of different models of this. We're going to be doing a front strut replacement. We're going to take you guys through it. First thing we're going to do is get the car up on jack stands, and then I'll kind of walk you guys through the rest. Alright guys, so here we are with the 2010 Kia Forte. We're getting a front strut replacement complete. Just kind of some things to look at before you start getting into the job. You kind of want to take a look at what it is that you're dealing with first. And one of the first things, I already took the wheels off, got it up on jack stands. And the first thing that I noticed, if you want to come close here, you'll see this bolt here. Seems a little bit long, a little bit different colored than the one down here. Now what we're gonna do is go over to the other side really quick. Yep. So as you can see, this is the other side, and the bolt is a lot shorter, and obviously it matches with the other one. So at least I know from here that somebody has been in this vehicle before. Either the struts have been replaced at one point or another, but it just kind of gives me an indication the car has been worked on in that specific area. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and jump into showing you guys what all you need to do in order to get these struts off and replaced. So the first thing we want to do is kind of take out our part and kind of look at the comparison. So in this case, we're doing a complete changeover of the spring and the strut assembly. It makes it easier for the customer and also for the technician doing this. So the first thing you want to do is look at what kind of parts are going to interchange. If they are all the same, make sure you got the right part. This is the correct side for this. So the first thing I'm seeing is that I'm going to need to remove this bolt back here, which is a 12 millimeter. This is actually what holds the brake line to the strut. We're also going to need to remove this one here, which I also believe is a 12 or a 10, which is the ABS line there. And then after that's removed, you're going to remove these two bolts here. Each one, well, the normal bolts are actually a 17 millimeter bolt. These are different size, so you really shouldn't have to worry about what size this one is, because this is not a original component. And then after that, I'll tell you guys what we got to do with this bolt here. So let me go ahead and get those bolts removed, and then I'll get back to you guys in just a moment. Alrighty guys, so I just wanted to update you guys on the correct sizes for these. So the nut is actually a 19 millimeter on the back, and the head of the bolt is actually 17 millimeters. So I just wanted to make sure that I clarified that. Both sides are actually different sizes. So let's go ahead and get them taken off. Alright guys, so now that we're pretty much to the point where the main bolts are off, these two 12 millimeters have come off, these main bolts have come off, but before I move this, we got to get to this little guy here. This is actually connected to the strut. So before you start trying to yank on this and trying to get that off, you'll notice it's probably not going to come off. One of the main reasons is because there's actually a bolt behind it, or actually a hex to actually hold it. It's part of the actual piece here. It's actually an 11/16, as you can see. It fits back here. It's probably a little bit smaller than the 11/16, but this should be enough just to kind of hold it from moving around. You hold this here. This front one is a 17, and I'm gonna go ahead and get that taken off now. Alrighty guys, so I just wanted to clarify some information here. So I did take the nut off. This is a 17, and I actually grabbed a 17 wrench, and that's actually the size of this back bolt, but I'm gonna go ahead and pull it off so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Right here, it's got grooves on each side for you to be able to hold on to it, just on the outside there. This 17 fits absolutely snug. It is not an 11/16. I thought that was kind of weird, because most of the time your standard bolts kind of stay standard, and your import or SAE, your standard bolts kind of stay standard on all the vehicle. Your millimeters or whatever you consider them, I forget right now what they're called, kind of all stay the same. So 17 and 17, you remove this. Now we're going to go ahead and come up here to the top and remove these bolts. And I'll tell you guys in just a moment what size those bolts are. Alrighty guys, so now we're going to come up here at top. These three bolts are what needs to be removed, and it is a 14 millimeter. You can either use your socket on these two. It's going to be kind of tough to get it with a socket anywhere else, because these back two kind of impede with this cover. So I'm actually just going to use a wrench to make life easier. Let's go ahead and get these off. Strut is out. One of the things that I do recommend is having a jack underneath here, because once that drops, it's actually going to lower the lower control arm or A arm down, and you don't want that coming down too far because, as you can see, the axle is still attached. We don't want to rip any boots. We also don't want to yank it out of the transmission. That can just cause a mess and more problems. So just kind of be sure to keep your jack here. You want to keep this from moving in and out too much. So if you want, you can actually tie it off to something. But now that we got the old one out, we're going to get the new one in. Alrighty guys, so we got our new strut on. Everything's tight, 17 millimeter. These, the two 12s, the brake line, and the ABS. That's all up there. And really quick, I want to show you guys. I got these ones up here. Now I used the original bolts that came off of this because they are the same original bolts like on the other side. These are what came with the new ones, but I want to show you guys why I actually used the original ones. Now the original ones are 14 millimeter, as you guys can see. Perfect. 14 mil. Now if I would have used these new ones, they are not a 14 mil, they're actually a 15 mil. Now I know it's not that big of a deal, but when it comes to me and my customers, if they ever want to service this and they happen to look up what tools they're going to need in order to get the job done, and they're only limited to the certain amount of tools that they have, they're going to think that these are going to be 14 millimeters if they read the information correctly online. So I like to keep the original parts on the vehicle unless it's absolutely necessary to change it to something else. And even then, if parts need to be replaced, it's always better to use the factory stuff. That way, if you have a customer who's going to end up working on their car all over again, or in the future somebody else who owns a vehicle, the original parts are there and they know what tools they'll need if they look them up in order to take off certain parts, instead of trying to figure out what size is this. I know it's easy to figure out, but for some people it may not be. That's why I always stick to using the original parts that came off of the vehicle if they're still in good condition as far as nuts and bolts. So now that we got this side done, let's go ahead and get the other side knocked out. All right guys, old one's out, new one's about to go in. Alrighty guys, and just like that, new one's in, bolts are tightened down, original ones are at the top, and that's going to be a wrap for these. So if you needed to find out how to change the struts on your Kia Forte 2010 to I'm not sure what, it's pretty simple. Just a few bolts, using the original stuff. Make sure you continue to use your original nuts and bolts if they're in good condition on these, and we'll see you guys next time on the next project.